Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches ARACHIN Daf Gimel. We begin on the third line from the top of the Amud. So we started our discussion yesterday regarding various places where we find the term Hakoil, beginning with our Mishnah, Hakol Ma'arichin. The word Hakoil is inclusive. Who is the Mishnah or the Brisa referring to in this inclusive term? A person who is not, explicitly mentioned, which should be included as well. So now we go down the lists. We're looking around throughout Shas. We found several examples, which we discussed yesterday, and the list continues. Says the Gemara, Kol Chayav Bezimun. All are obligated in the Zimun process. Right, where you join together, and you make that sort of collective Birchas HaMazayin, right? The Baruch Shechalom Shaloi, and they respond. All are chayiv. La'asuya mai, including who's covered by that hakoil. La'asuya nashim v'avadim, even women, v'avadim, or slaves. The Sanya, as we learn in the Brisa, they're obligated. Nashim mezamnis la'atzman, right? Nashim perform a zimun when they're on their own. V'avadim, likewise, slaves mezamnin la'atzman. Rashi explains why can't they just join together? Because they can, because each one has its own specific, unique format. In the Rechas HaMazon, Rashi says, men, Yisraelim, they'll mention bris, they'll mention Torah, but Nashim, when they bench, are not obligated in saying bris, which doesn't relate to them. Avadim, well, they're not going to say al nachla seinu, ashen chalt al v'seinu, because it's not their nachla, they're just slaves owned by a yid. So since each class has its own distinct text, so they can't really mix them together, but on their own, they can make their own zimun, nashim, avadim. Interesting. Tosfos actually concludes that he brings over here that women are not really chayiv, it's rishus, it's voluntary, and he says alzeh samchu nashim shalanu. Based on this, our women do not do zimun she'ein mezames. Interesting. Okay. Hakol mitzdarfen lezimun. The next point is all can participate in a zimun. Okay, the first point was obligation. Now mitzdarfen, they can join with each other. So all men can join with each other. Who are we including here? Lasuya might, to cover who? Lasuya kotna idel mivarchen. Even a cotton, underage boy, if he understands, the meaning of Birchas HaMazon, how he's thanking Hashem, he can join the zimun. Damar of Nachman, if he knows who we're benching to, mezamin olav, they can be mezamin with him. Hakol metamin beziva. All can become tummy through the ziva, the emission process. Who's the all that we're covering? Even a 1-day-old child who has ziva is tummy, the sanya. Ish. So the pasuk, in speaking about ziva, opens with the word ish. Ish. Why the ish again? It's mentioned again, the rabbi's tinik ben yam echad, shemetame beziva, to cover even a small child who has ziva, he will become tummy. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shmuel b'nai shel brechem breko aimer, ain't a tzarech, we don't need a pasuk special for that. We have another pasuk. Anybody with ziva, lazach or nekeva. So it's not age related. Lazachar means kol shu zachar. If you're a male, ben katem megadol, whether you're young or old, you can become a zav. And nekeva is telling you that any sort of nekeva can become tamei beziva regardless of age. Kol shi nekeva ben ktanim megadol. So why that repetition ish? Well, that's just a colloquial, that's a way of speaking. Dibra Torah, something the Torah speaks in a similar manner to the way people do. Dibra Torah klosh b'nei adam, for emphasis, but really the halacha is learned from the other pasuk. Hakol mitamin b'tmei meis. So we learned about hakol mitamin b'ziva, mitamin, they can become tummy through ziva. Now we have hakol mitamin b'tmei meis, all can become tummy through touching a meis. Lasui mai, who's covered in this hakoil? Lasui to cotton, once again, even a cotton who touches a mace becomes tamei. He can experience tumah just like an adult. Why would I think otherwise? There's room to think. Ish asher yitameh v'yischata. The pasuk in Parshas Chukah speaks about an ish, an adult. Asher yitmeh v'yischata, who became tamei, did not become tar. So perhaps it's limited to an adult. Ish, an adult only. Cotton, but a cotton doesn't get affected by tumah. Kamash malon. Comes the pasuk that says Valan afashas asher ayusham. All the nefashis, irrespective of age, can become tummy. So if we know it from that pasuk, so let's go back to the ish, what's that coming to cover? L'mutamai, what's that excluding? L'mutamai, right? If we know even katanim because of nefasheh, so why did the Torah use the word ish, which would indicate only an adult? Ish l'mutamai, what's that coming to exclude? L'mutai katan mikares. So although the katan can become tamei, but he's not liable to kares if, in fact, he enters the mikdash without purifying himself. Now, Taisus asked the obvious kash. I mean, we always know that a katan is exempt from punishments. He's not obligated. So why would I think this is different? So he said that since we find that he can be metame things, right? When he touches food, drink, it becomes tummy. So perhaps, he's fully liable, just like an adult. This is very different than other punishments. Kares will result from disregarding his tumah, entering the mikdash in that state. That's what I would think. Comes ish and excludes him, exempts him from punishment. Hakol mitamen binigoim. All can become tummy through a nega. Who are we covering here? Cotton. Once again, a cotton who has a nega is tummy. There's room to think that he's exempt, because we have the word ish in the Torah regarding negoim. Ish tzaruach, if it says the man with a nega. Perhaps only a man, ish, in, adult, yes. Cotton, but not a cut. Kamashma, the point is yes, even a cotton. Maybe not. Maybe only adult. How do you know even a cotton? Adam kiyevay b'saray. A man, a person, Adam, who will have a nega. That term covers even a cotton. Mikal malkim, even to cover a cotton. So why then did the pasuk mention ish if it's not limited to an ish? Lisanya, for the halachas, the specific halachas, certain ones only apply to an adult. Ish, ein leil ish. So the pasuk mentioned ish. Perhaps nega only affects a man. Ish b'nai. What about a woman who's affected by a nega? Shu'ayim about tzurua. Tzurua is cross-gender. Hurricane shnaim. Whether a man or a woman, they can become tamei. Ish. So why does the pasuk mention ish? That's going to answer our first question as well. Why ish? L'nishamat. It relates to the halachas discussed later on in the parsha there, that those only apply to a man, an adult, and not a woman or a cotton. Ish pareya pairim. So certain, modes of conduct that apply to a mitzvah. Pareya is to let his hair grow long. Pairim, tears begadim. That only applies to a man, an adult. Ish pareya pairim v'ena ish paras param is about a woman and a cotton. So although he becomes tummy, but he doesn't undergo this process. Hakol roinas and agoyim. Hakol ksher and lulas and agoyim. So a kohen is meant to examine the nega and determine its status. All can do that. All are able to do that. All? What's that covering? L'suyimai, to cover whom? L'suyei, to cover even a kohen who's not learned, who has to be told what to say and declare it as Torah or Tamei. L'suyei shena baki. Behen b'shmei, a kohen who's not an expert in different types of negoim in their names and their shades and their colors. Rashi explains, how's he going to know what to do? A Talmud Chacham accompanies him. A Yisrael Talmud Chacham who knows the ins and outs will tell the kohen, look, this shade here, it's tar, say tar. Right? And upon the kohen's declaration, it's confirmed as tar and vice versa. Says the Gemara, really? You're allowing an unlearned kohen to get involved in labeling the kohen? B'amamai, we learned, ain't a baki b'hen mishmei, a kohen who's not an expert, ain't a reis in the kohen, you can't be involved in examining the kohen. Ravina, it depends on what level of lack of expertise. Like Kashi, answer is like this. When is he allowed to approach the nega? The mas believe is saber. He's smart enough that you can instruct him, show him, look, this shade, explain it to him. But saber, he'll appreciate it. He'll learn it on the spot, on the job, training. But in the case where the mas believe lo saber, even when you teach him, he doesn't understand. So in that case, he's not authorized to be involved. Hakok sheren lekadesh. Lekadesh means to paraduma water, that to mix the ashes in the water. Everybody can do that. Lasuyimai, to cover whom? Who's included? The Rabbi Yehuda, it's coming to cover lasuyi cotton, even a cotton can do it. The Rabban disagree on that. Lasuyi ish, even a woman. That's not, where do we find this discussion? Hakol ksher and lekadesh, all can do kiddush, chutz except mecher shaytiv a cotton. So according to the Rabban, a cotton is out, but the isha is in. Rabbi Yehuda machshav a cotton, possible isha adregim. Rabbi Yehuda says a cotton is in, but a woman or adregim are out, and these are discussed. The particulars are discussed in Yuma, the reasons for all these halachas. What about kol ksher and lahazes? Let's move on to hazah, the sprinkling of the ashes on the tummy. Who all can do that? Who's all? Lasuyi mai, lasuyi aral, even aral who never did a bris milah can do that. Don't think that he has a tumah, that it's unbecoming. Reb Lezer teaches us, and Reb Lezer aral shehizas asek sheira. So even aral who did it, it works. Hakol shech lasuyi mai. All can do shchita. Who are the all that we're talking about? Chada. So it says it twice. Hakoil, hakoil in the Mishnayos and Chulin, if you recall. So one is like chad lasui kusi, even a kusi. This class of people whose conversion was questionable, even they can do a shchita. V'chada. One is lasui Yisrael mumar, even a renegade Jew. We're speaking that he's not, in spite. He just, he's an opportunist. So if he does it right, we assume it's okay, and you can eat from his shchita. What about hakoil mal Eretz Yisrael? Anybody has the ability to force his family up to live in Eretz Yisrael. Who's the Akol coming to cover? Return Talmud Bavli. Asuyei avadim. So Rashi explains. Yisrael owns an Eved. And the owner, wants to sell him. And the slave says, look, you want to sell me? Okay, sell me only in Eretz Yisrael. I want to live there. It's Kaddish, it has mitzvahs. He can force the owner to do that. Now, according to the version where avadim was actually spelled out, so Hakol doesn't have to include it, it's been spelled out. So what is Hakol coming to include? To cover a case as follows. Minove hayafel, l'nove hara. Suppose he's living in a nice town, Nove Yafa, outside Eretz Yisrael, and the wife wants to move up to Eretz Yisrael, l'nove hara, even though the town isn't as nice. She can force the husband to do so. So just like you can force them up, you can force your family out. You cannot force your family out. So if one wants to leave and the other one doesn't, he can force them to stay. Nobody, hakoil, they can't force them to leave Eretz Yisrael. So once again, hakoil is coming to include somebody. Who has the ability to prevent leaving Eretz Yisrael. Eved, shebarach, an Eved escaped from his owner. He escaped up to Eretz Yisrael. He was living outside Eretz Yisrael. He escaped up to Eretz Yisrael. So he can tell the owner, listen, you want me, come live in Eretz Yisrael. You can't force me to leave. Once I'm here, I'm not leaving. Okay, on the same token, you can compel the family to move up to Yerushalayim. So even within Eretz Yisrael, Akol Man Yerushalayim, all can force their way up to Yerushalayim. Lasuye, to cover what? What's Hakol coming to cover? An added dimension. Suppose they're living in a town in Eretz Yisrael, which is very, very pretty, and the Yerushalayim doesn't have that level of beauty at that point. So even though it's a Nava, you can force the family up, and likewise, vice versa. Nobody can force out of Yerushalayim, even though it's to a better place. Nobody can force the family out of Yerushalayim. So you might to cover what case? To cover a case of Minava, even if it's not as nice in Yerushalayim, L'Nove Yafa, and they want to move out to a nicer place, but Yerushalayim is Yerushalayim, and they can force each other to stay there. Okay, so we had all these, a long list of examples of halachas where the word hakoil was attached to it, to cover something which was unsaid, to include an added element in the halach. Now we move on to other instances where we find discussion about mitzvahs and chiyuvin, where the Mishnah or the Brisa stipulates that it applies to all, groups amongst our nation, Kohanim and Levim and Yisraelim, and the point is, what's the point? Isn't it obvious, right? Of course, it applies to everybody equally. So now we're going to go through a long list of examples and explain what the chiddush is, why we're specifically, referring to Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim. Is there room to think that somebody's exempt because of his status? Let's see. Hakol chayim b'sukkah. Let's start with sukkah. All are obligated. Kohanim, Levim, Yisrael. Pshita, obviously. If these are not going to be chayiv, then who is? You covered the whole gamut. Man mechayiv, who's chayiv? The answer is Kohanim and strichlet. There's a point in mentioning the Kohanim and singling them out that they're chayiv in sukkah. Why would I think otherwise?
Salka da dechamina. There's room to think that they're exempt. Why? Since the pasuk, in relation to the mitzvah of sukkah, says like this: "But sukkah is teshuvah shivasya, meant to dwell in your sukkah the way you normally dwell." V'amar, and the Gemara in Masechah Sukkah explains on this. Teshuvah shivasya means ke'ein taduru. So our dwelling in the sukkah is meant to be reminiscent. Is meant to be similar to the way we normally dwell in a house, except that the house is more of a permanent type of nature, whereas the sukkah is a structure of a more temporary nature. But it's meant to be in similar fashion. Came to do. And therefore, just like at home, we live as a family, husband and wife. Likewise, in the sukkah, you're meant to have that accompaniment, which a kohen can't. A, because he's busy working in the Beis Hamikdash, at least throughout the day. And B, as Rashi points out, she'ein is kakin she'seim. They must maintain their tahara status, which preempts interacting physically with their wives. So it's not the way you normally dwell. It's not a conventional living, right? And it's meant to be kein taduru, the way you typically live. Madira, just like a typical living is ishvi ishta, husband and wife. Av sukkah, likewise, a sukkah is meant to be a copy of that. Ishvi ishta, v'hani kehana b'dis kehanam, hoylu b'nei avodaninu, since they're involved in the avodah Beis Hamikdash, that precludes them living, so to speak, normally, the way they would typically do throughout the year. And therefore, like the chayva, they should not be obligated in sukkah. Kamashmon, the answer is no. In terms of the married life aspect, okay, that's ideal, right? It's optimal, but even if not, it doesn't exempt you from sukkah. And in terms of, practical, time frame, well, okay, so during the day they're exempt. But at night, when they're free of the avodah, then they belong in the sukkah. Okay, Kamashman, the point is, Nehid B'tir, true, they're exempt b'shas avodah during the actual service. But b'loi sh'as avodah, when it's not the time of avodah, such as nighttime, chivim v'chayvi, they're obligated, just like a person traveling. So while he's on the road, right, you don't have to hold back from traveling on sukkahs, even though perhaps you don't have access to a sukkah. They didn't have the pop-up sukkahs in those days. And the reason is because, once again, you're not meant to live any differently on sukkahs than throughout the year. Throughout the year, a person does travels on business, etc. Likewise on sukkahs. But, despite the fact that he can't necessarily fulfill the mitzvah during daytime while he's on the road, but it comes nighttime, you've got to find yourself a hotel with a sukkah. Right? Just like the travelers. As we learn back in Masechah Sukkah again, those travelers, if they're traveling during daytime, they're exempt during daytime only. But comes nighttime, they have to put up a sukkah at night. Next, all have a mitzvah of tzitzis. All segments of Klal Yisrael, Kaihanim, Levim, Yisraelim, and again, Pshita, obviously. I mean, if they're not chayiv, who is? Why single them out? Once again, Kaihanim is truthful. The point is to accentuate the Kaihanim. I would think perhaps they're different. Why? There's room to think, looks if the pasuk mentions tzitzis with shatnez in the same breath. Lo silbash shatnez, not meant to wear a mix of wool and linen, which we call shatnez, and then in the very next pasuk, it says, Gedilim taslach, make yourself the strings of tzitzis. There's a correlation between the two. You see, in a way, tzitzis is a permissible version of shatnez, right? Because tzitzis is meant to have wool, right? The blue is wool. Even if the white strings are linen, you can have. Tzitz is made of shatnez. So, in a way, tzitzis is a permissible version of shatnez. The Torah is basically telling us, look, don't wear shatnez, but yes, in a tzitzis format. Now the Kohanim already have that. They already have that permissible version of shatnez elsewhere. Where? In the Beis Hamikdash, in their big day kahuna. The belt, the avnet of the kohen was made of kalayim, because it was made of all different colors. Blue wool, right, and white flax. So since they already have a different venue to fulfill this permissible element, version of kalayim, they're exempt from tzitzis perhaps. On the one hand, don't wear a mix of wool and linen. Good, with dilim taslach, but do make tzitzis, despite its featuring a mix of wool and linen. perhaps we can deduce, only an ordinary person who to him kalayim is le'ishteri, is not permitted in any way. So he has to wear tzitzis, which is really a permissible version of kalayim. But these kayanim already had that elsewhere. Since they can wear kalayim elsewhere in the Beis Hamikdash. Perhaps they're not obligated in tzitzis at all. Kamashmon, the answer is, like we said before, it's true during the avodah. And he the ishteri bidin avodah. It's true they're mutter and kalayim during the avodah, but below the avodah. But otherwise, if they're outside the avodah times, and Parshim explain, meaning in the Beis Hamikdash they can still wear, but if they're outside the Mikdash at all, well, usually they can't wear kilayim. So in a way, they're similar to anybody else, and therefore they're chayiv in tzitzis. Hakol chayiv mitfilin. All will wear tefillin. Kayhanim, Levim, Yisrael. Again, the same question. Pshita. Why go through all the Kayhanim? Strictly, the point again is to emphasize the Kayhanim. Why would I think they're different? Since the Torah instructing us on the tefillin tells us, tie it, place your tefillin, al yodecha, and as Rashi points out, al yodecha means it has to be directly on your skin. Rashi brings the Gemara in Menachos. It's meant to be a sign for you, a private sign, not meant to be displayed. It's meant to be on your skin, under your baguette. Likewise, tefillin shalosh on your head, opposite the, between the eyes. So perhaps they're linked together. It goes hand in hand. Called the Yisrael mitzvah the Yad. Whoever is subject to the mitzvah of the Yad, an ordinary Yisrael, can wear tefillin shal Yad. Yisrael mitzvah the shalosh will also wear shal rosh. Who cannot wear shal Yad? Less than mitzvah the Yad, they can't wear shal Yad. The pasuk says Hilash Abisaroi, because the Koyanim garments are meant to be directly on his skin. It can't be any barrier, any separation between the big kahuna and his skin, which preempts placement of tefillin. So perhaps, just like they're exempt from shalyad, they're exempt from sharesh. The answer is it's true, you can't wear shalyad during the avodah, but at least the shalreish you could. They don't hold each other back. They're two separate mitzvahs. There's none. Tefillah shalyad, the lack of wearing a tefillah shalyad, will not hold back the shalreish, meaning if you have the shalreish, go for it, even without the shalyad, and vice versa. With shalreish, shalyad. Ask the Gemara. So a kohen has an issue with the shalyad because of chatzitza, but he can wear shalreish. Why is that not a chatzitza as well? Why is the yad different? The priestly garments are meant to be directly on his skin, which preempts the placement of tefillin. Well, rosh nami, even the shalosh as well. The cap of the kohen is directly on his head, which apparently preempts placement of tefillin in that area. Tana, the answer is, the Brisa explained that there's some gap between the cap and his forehead, which was exposed, where there was plenty of room for tefillin. Tana, Sarahi, Nirab and Sislemas Nevis, this is by the Kohen Gadol, had a tzitz, gold plate on his forehead, and then he had a mitznevis above that. His hair would show between, which means to say that the cap was placed high on his head, leaving some space, some hair space, between the cap and the forehead. Shesham, where over there, maniach tefillin would place his tefillin. So he puts the shalreish on despite not having shal yad. And that's the point of the Bryce. Hakol chayav mitgeas shayfer, all are chayav in shayfer. Kayhan will be in Israel. Again, pshita, obviously, kind of a strictly. The answer is, I think the Kayhanim are different. Why? There's room to think. Hoyluk siv the pasuk, which relates to blowing the shayfer on Tkiyah on the Rosh Hashanah, says Yom Teruah, a day of blowing Yeh Lachem. So there's only one day a year of blowing, says Rashi. Mashma Yamecha B'Lvad. So perhaps only a Yisrael will observe it. Man Delesel B'Tkiyah Chad Yoyma. Chayiv, only Yisrael. Well, all he has is a one day of blowing. He does blowing on Rosh Hashanah. Have it all year round by the Karbonis. Since they're subject to the obligation of blowing Tkiyah Kuli Shata throughout the entire year. As the pasuk says, you blow the trumpets when you bring the carbon oil. So perhaps they already have it all year round. They don't blow on Rosh Hashanah like us.
Well, hold it, me dummy, how do you compare? It's a different instrument. Hasam chatzayters, there it's trumpets. Here we're talking about a horn of an animal. Istrix, what's the connection? The answer is, once again, there's room to think that they're exempt. There's room to say. Now we have a Mishnah which says, Shava HaYovel. So the 50th year of the 50-year cycle, the Yovel, is similar in a way, the Rosh Hashanah, to our observance of Rosh Hashanah. So on Yom Kippur of the 50th year of Yovel, Litkia, there's blowing, Lebrachis, and we say the brachas, like on Rosh Hashanah, we say Malchis, Rechonis, and Shofars during the Tefillah. That is observed on Yovel as well. So perhaps, once again, since we see that correlation between Yovel and Rosh Hashanah, we can say the Isei b'mitzvahs Yovel, one who observes the mitzvahs of Yovel, he'll have Rosh Hashanah as well. Isei b'mitzvahs Rosh Hashanah. So he will. If you do mitzvahs of Yovel, we'll have mitzvahs of Rosh Hashanah, the blowing of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. But the less like mitzvahs Yovel, one who does not have the mitzvahs of Yovel, such as the Kohanim, we'll see in a minute, let's say b'mitzvahs Rosh Hashanah, perhaps he does observe the mitzvahs of Rosh Hashanah, the blowing of the shofar as well. I.e. the Kohanim. Why? Look, these Kohanim, mitzvahs Yovel. Since, to a certain extent, they don't observe all the mitzvahs of Yovel. There's none. There's a Mishnah. You see, typically, when a Yisrael sells a property, he gets it back come Yovel. He can't sell it on Yovel, that's certainly, right? And another point, when he sells a field, he has to wait. He has to give the buyer 2 years to enjoy the field, and then he can go redeem it from him. Kohanim and Levim are not obligated by these laws. They have a different system. It's not, the Mishnah says Kohanim and Levim can sell whenever they want, even on Yovel, Rashi explains. Return to the next Amid, they can redeem from their buyers anytime they want. So since they're not obligated to adhere to the Yovel system like we are, perhaps they're not obligated to mitzvah Rosh Hashanah, i.e. blowing the shofar. The answer is they are. Because even Yovel, they do observe somewhat. Granted, the lesson of Hashmatas Karka, they're not subject to all the rules of the Hashmatas Karka, relinquishing ownership of Karka and all the laws that go with it. But the Hashmatas Ksafim, but they certainly abide by the other elements of Yovel. Letting go of their loans. Setting free their slaves. Certainly the Kohanim are obligated in that too. And since they're obligated in certain elements of Yovel, they're considered observers of Yovel, and likewise, observers of Rosh Hashanah, including Tkiyah Shofar. Okay, so we covered a couple of examples of Akoil, explained what they include, and we covered many examples of, where the halacha stipulates Kohanim Levim Israel, and explained why I would think a Kohen is exempt from certain things, such as Sukkah, Tzitzis, Tefillin, Tkiyah Shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And the conclusion was, of course, they're just like anybody else, they're chayiv, and have the privilege of doing these mitzvahs. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.